Good afternoon everybody and welcome to Huddersfield Town Hall for the Cabinet meeting on the 5th of October 2021. So membership of the Cabinet, is there any apologies?
Yes, received apologies from Councillor Pattison, Councillor Khan and Councillor Pando.
Thank you. Minutes of the previous meeting, are they agreed? Yeah. Agreed. Is there any declarations of interest? None. If there should be, can you put them, give them to Yolanda at the end of the meeting? Is admissions of the public? Yes. Is there any deputations or petitions?
None received.
Moving forward, members of the public, any questions?
None in attendance, Chair.
And questions from elected members?
No, sir. Just one question. And I don't expect to have the answer today. I was going to ask, can you tell us how much the council has paid for architectural advice regarding the two special schools, and how? And a sub question is, how much have they paid to advisors this financial year? The second part was really how much has the council paid to other advisors in the last financial year. Yeah, for everything. Yeah, I know that you won't have the. I know you won't have the answer. Yeah, I'm just asking for if I can be sent the information, please. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Right. Okay. Okay then. Okay, and then we have Councillor Munro. Are you wanting to ask a question?
Yes. Yes, please. Is it okay to speak now?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Please can the council tell me when they intend to install charging points for electric vehicles in the Almonbury ward?
Would that be Councillor Mathers or Councillor Simpson?
It doesn't really matter, but we're both ready to do that. We're not ready yet, but we are getting the infrastructure in place. And as we progress, councillors will be kept on board in relation to when the charging points are going to be coming to their wards.
Okay,
Councillor Munro, can I just bring in Councillor Simpson to add something else to that for you?
Yeah, just wanted to say, Alison, in addition to what Councillor Mathers said, this was I was recently at Overview and Scrutiny Management Committee, and this was something that we discussed at a bit of length with some questions from them. So it might be of interest if you just want to take a look at what we discussed at Overview Management Scrutiny. We are taking a strategic look at how we'll roll out further electric charging in wards, as well as just in council car parks in strategic locations. So that work is ongoing.
Okay, is there a supplementary, Councillor Munro?
Yes, please. Please can you tell me then what residents do at the moment when they purchase EVs on the believing that they will receive a grant for the installation of an electric charging point at their house, only to find that they're not entitled to that because they don't have off-road parking, and what are they supposed to do in that situation? Thank you.
Councillor Mathers or Simpson?
Thank you, Councillor Munro. Yeah, so obviously on-street charging is something that we did discuss at Overview and Scrutiny Management Committee, because obviously that's a real challenge. We know that there are a significant number of properties across Kirklees where they don't have parking off-street and they have to park on-street, and that's a real challenge because obviously it's a bit of a challenge if you've got an electric charging point, you know, hanging out of your living room window across the garden and then across the highway to charge your car on the road, and that's not a situation that's particularly attractive for residents, and obviously we have a responsibility to make sure that the highway is safe for pedestrians as well, so that's not an ideal situation at all, and it's something that we recognise. It is, however, an absolutely enormous challenge that we can't do on our own. We will be, and are, as I said in the previous response, developing a strategic approach to that, and we are putting bids in for government monies whenever they become available to try and secure that. So that work, as I say, is ongoing, and we're going to do what we can to deliver as much as we can for people across Kirklees.
Thank you, Councillor Simpson. Councillor Munro, is there a supplementary?
supplementary. Thank you.
Okay, is that all, Councillor Munro?
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Councillor Scott.
Okay. All right. Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Chair. It's a question to Will, I'm afraid. Earlier in the year, I asked a written question about the museum consultation for the town centre, and you kindly replied and said we would receive something by September. It's now October, and we've still not seen anything. So when are we likely to actually send this? At this rate, it will be 2 years since consultation was done.
Councillor Simpson.
Yeah, thank you, John, for your question. We got the final report with the report on the consultation. I received that copy in recent days and have asked that it is shared with yourself and then published shortly. So I know you'll want an exact date, but now I can just say in due course because it will be very soon.
No supplementary? Sorry? Okay, and your question, Councillor Taylor?
It's to you, Chair. On a similar vein, you'll recall earlier in the year, I mentioned on several occasions about the Democracy Commission and that it seems to be just hanging. And we've been promised for months now that there will be a report produced and that will be shared with members of the Commission, and I'm still waiting. Nothing seems to be happening. So can we have some update on when we're likely to receive something, please?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Taylor. I will get you an update. I do apologise about that. They are working on it. I know you did ask for it and everybody's asking about it, but we've also got to look at how Democracy Commission, obviously with it ending and how it morphed into place-based working and place. So I do believe that we do need to talk about that. I'll ensure you get a copy. And obviously we're going to be doing some further work together anyway, so I'll make sure something gets out to you.
I just think it might be helpful for maybe the members of the Commission to meet, members of the working group to meet and get an update on what progress has been made, because my worry is this is all happening in isolation from members that put a lot of the work into the working group. I just think we should be brought back in at some point so we can, ensure that all of the things that we understood were still left hanging have been picked up, because I worry about loose ends, really.
Yeah, I do hear what you're saying. There was 48 recommendations, and with all the will in the world, not every recommendation would have been met, but we do need to meet together and have that final conversation of where we're up to as we move forward. So, yeah, I'm happy to take that away for you. So we're moving on to item number 8, elective home education policy. And I'll introduce Councillor Viv Kendrick.
It's a proposed new elective home education policy. There was an ad hoc scrutiny panel which sat and looked at elective home education and did a terrific piece of work and came up with a whole range of recommendations, which the sort of list of issues can be found on page 10 of the document under part 2. And a new policy has been written following that now covers all the points listed above and is compatible with the Department of Education's elective home education guidance. In addition to this policy, what has been produced is also information for Parents Guide and also Flexi School Guide, which I think is really important because policies can be a bit dry, a bit confusing, and some clear guides for members of the public are always useful. And you can find those, I think, at Appendix B. And really, Cabinet is asked on page 12 under 6.1 to adopt the proposed new elective home education policy, to delegate responsibility to the Director of Children's Services in conjunction with the post holder for Children's Services to review the policy and guidance annually and make technical amendments where appropriate, allowing engagement to take place with stakeholders. Another breath. Should there be new legislative requirements, then this would require a more fundamental change which would be brought back to Cabinet. So I'm asking colleagues on Cabinet to agree those recommendations. I propose that those should be accepted, and also to make our very great thanks to the ad hoc scrutiny panel, because they have helped us a long way along the road to getting this right. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kendrick, and I'll second that report and recommendation. Is there anybody wanting to speak on that? No? So I'll move it. So show of hands. Pass. So we're now moving on to item 9, the learning strategy on our futures in Kirklees, and Councillor Kendrick.
It all comes at once. The learning strategy that is before you today is, let's be very clear about this, is not a school improvement plan, and it's not a local authority document. It's a long-term strategic ambition covering educational recovery in the short, medium and long term. And what's most important about it, it is a co-created, co-produced document with professionals across a whole range, working together, many stakeholders, and its aim is to improve the lives of Kirklees learners. There are 3 key messages which you will find in there about how we affect the inequalities for learners. There are so many benefits around this. It's truly important. And for me, the one thing that absolutely delighted me were the obsessions that are remarked on in the report. The 3 obsessions that this whole group of professionals have about inclusion, that children, young people and learners of all backgrounds learn and grow side by side to the benefit of all. Resilience, that the ability and support to overcome adversity is there. And equity, that everyone gets the support they need. Not everybody gets the same, everybody gets the support they need for their particular needs. It's ambitious, it's long-term, and members are asked to accept this report. I recommend that this report is accepted, and it's at the heart of all the work that the young people and children of Kirklees. Page 53, 6 is the recommendations are formally written out, that you note the report and formally adopt our Kirklees Futures as our strategy for learning. Obviously, following this, if this is accepted, then a whole raft of detailed work will come out, which will put more flesh on the bones, if you like. So could I ask colleagues on my recommendation, please, to accept our Kirklees Futures as our system-wide strategy, please?
Okay, is there any questions on that? Councillor Davis.
Not a question, you'd be pleased, Councillor Kendrick. It's just a comment, really. I think some of you heard me saying this before, that I sit on Education Learning Partnership Board, and we've been discussing this for some time. In fact, I think when I first came on that board some 3 years ago, the first conversations were around this, and it is just absolutely fantastic now to see this actually in the form that it is. You can see from the Commission membership the broad input that's been in there. I think the 3 key messages which are outlined on page 4 are the real basis for this. I think it talks about the experience of learners varying, talks about how we need to look at the inequalities within Kirklees, our ability to overcome that and ensure a good future for all of our children. Also, the fact that we do have many benefits within Kirklees from our strong leadership teams, our teaching teams and support teams. But number 3, which for me is extremely important, is this fact that success for our children is not just about formal assessments. It is much wider, and key, in my view, and I know this is shared by many who pulled this together, is to work hard to ensure that all of our children have high levels of self-esteem and the resilience to actually make a better future for themselves. So for me, this is probably one of the most important documents and strategies we have. It's all about our children in Kirklees, and what else could be more important than that? And as Councillor Kendrick says, I'm fully confident this will be followed up with some really good action plans and deliverables. And of course, on the Education and Learning Partnership Board, we'll be keeping a careful eye on that. I'd like to thank Jo as well, who sat across there, very quiet at the moment. Herself and her team have done an absolutely fantastic job on this, despite lots of other pressures going on. I've kept their nerve, if you like, and not gone for easy options, and I've produced something which is very worthwhile indeed. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Davies. I'd also like to thank Joanne Sanders and her department and all the work you have put into this. We do want the best for our children and young people in Kirklees, and thanks to Viv Kendrick, Councillor Patterson, for the work that you've tirelessly done on this as well. So I move this, so can I have all hands to show support? That's carried. So moving on now to item 10, Special Educational Needs and Disabilities SEND Master Plan, and I'll bring in Councillor Viv Kendrick.
Is in agenda item 12. I mean, I don't know whether you want to just clarify that.
So members here, have you all read the items that are for private? Okay, so we'll move straight into it then. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chair. This is about delivering a plan for the provision of special school places which will contribute to the long-term sufficiency of specialist provision as part of our wider SEND transformation plan. I think as most people are aware, the need for special educational places is increasing year on year, not just in Kirklees but across the country, and those issues must be addressed. And in the previous report we talked about everyone getting the support and assistance that they need to achieve, and this is part of that pattern. It concerns in this first instance 2 of our special educational schools that we have, which really, and I visited them both several times, are really not fit for purpose. Not fit for purpose in terms of their physical layout, but absolutely exemplary in the education they provide for the children who attend those sites. And actually, this is about doing the right thing for some of our most vulnerable young people who deserve the right to be educated and to achieve, and in an environment that is suitable for them. I'll have a go at each one in turn. Joseph Norton School, which is out in Denby Dale Ward, is in fact a co-educational school, although within it at the moment there are only boys. And it is because of the layout, multiple, I would describe it as a hodgepodge of buildings, ranging from things that I'm not sure if they're listed but are certainly quite old, to something like 1960s, 70s buildings that are too small to accommodate the school. And 61 boys attend there, make progress and achieve, and there are a lot of girls would have liked to attend there, and I know we have 63 girls with SEMH who go out of area. Some of that will be parental choice, but some of it is because there isn't capacity to provide for them. And it is about doing the right thing in getting a good site. Whilst Joseph Norton is a lovely site in a lovely place, it is right at one end of Kirklees. And these are children that come from all over Kirklees. So if you lived in the far north of Kirklees, then what a journey that is. And it is about, you know, a central site would be really lovely. A site that has the capacity to build a state-of-the-art provision. And that's what our intention is, a state-of-the-art provision that not only could accommodate the young people who need to be there now, but can need to be there in the future. Which is why the proposal within this is to look at the Deaton site, which is a previous school site. It's now knocked down as the previous school, and to build a state-of-the-art provision there. It's much more central to Kirklees. In fact, you know, transport one way or another is an awful lot easier. And so, for me, it's about doing the right thing for the young people and for their families. And it... You all right? Okay. And this isn't a competition. This isn't to the detriment of other special schools that we have across Kirklees. They are also... We have some really, really good provision, which I'm incredibly proud of. Why I should be proud of it, I don't know, but I do appreciate it. But it is about making sure we do the right thing for this school. In the same way, if I look at the Woodley School, again, I visited that school, and that's an interesting school. It's in a lovely site, but it is, again, I don't know, a 1950s, 60s school building, which is too small for the provision. It's also in a listed Victorian, I think, mansion, where they've had to put toughened glass on the staircase to make sure nobody comes over the banisters, where they have their plus 16 provision, post 16 provision in the old Victorian stable block. And sadly, they have, I don't know what, I can't remember what the term is, I'll look at John, like a mobile classroom and out. Is that what they're called?
Yeah, there's some modular accommodation on site to support the school.
They have a modular classroom there, and I first went 3 or 4 years ago, and the head teacher said to me, "You're not going to take away that classroom from us, are you? Because it's wonderful." And it was wonderful because they were so stuck for space. And isn't that sad? You know, and these young people, these children, and these members of staff in both these schools, against all the odds, do some brilliant work. And I mean, Woodley provides coaching and training for schools and other educational establishments across the authority. And so the proposal has been to move Woodley School from its site. There's been all sorts of ways of looking at if that site could be adjusted to work for them, and it really isn't seen as feasible to move to the Almondbury site to actually take down the school that sits there now, because I think in some places, has it got 4 stories? Which would be totally inappropriate for this school group, if you like. To build again a state-of-the-art premises. The intention and my desire and intention is that the swimming pool is a huge asset, and if we can at all, should be retained, as should the sports centre, because that's a community asset. And I know the swimming pool is used by schools and will benefit this school on site as well. The whole matter of this, looking at this, has been looked at, and over 20 sites across Kirklees have been looked at, and for lots of different reasons they've been rejected. These are the 2 sites that are being recommended for very good reasons. It was looked at to see at one point whether we could get 2 schools on the site at Almondbury, but I think if you look into the report, I can't remember where it is, it's something like 2.3.2, 2.3.3. It sort of indicates why that would be problematic, and it is because it's open green space, there are footpaths that would have to be diverted, etc., etc., and it couldn't all fit on the footprint of the previous school. And you know, the expectation, or my expectation, is that we will be probably seeing a single-storey school which will fill up the footprint currently occupied by the old Almondbury School. So I'm recommending this to Cabinet colleagues, and page 109 and also 110 lists. So it's a long list of recommendations. I don't choose to read them all out, but it asks for us to remove, to approve all the various things. Part of it will be to remove the Almondbury site from a PPI contract, which is what adds to the cost. And can I say, I think within the capital budget there is, for high needs, there is already 28 million sat there waiting for our special educational needs. And this will cost us more, but it is not about money, it's about the right thing to do and the right education for these children. So I do recommend this to colleagues.
Thank you, Councillor Kendrick. Councillor Munro, you've got a question?
Thank you. I've got just several actually. Okay, thank you. We already have a specialised school in our ward, that is Southgate School. Earlier this year, I was informed the school needed more space and was waiting for a modular classroom. Out of all the schools listed in your report, Southgate School received the most requests for a place. It provides special education for a range of disabilities compared to Woodley. Wouldn't the logical solution be to build one school on the former ACS site to accommodate both schools? And my supplementary question is the reason due to is part of the reason due to a PFI in Southgate School? And my second question,
Councillor Munro, can we just stop there? One question. I've got a list down here at the moment, so we'll take your first question. Councillor Kendrick, are you able? All right. Okay. Can you speak a little bit slower, Councillor Munro, so that we can hear you?
Okay. Well, just the last bit. Wouldn't the logical solution be to build one school on the former ACS site to accommodate both schools, to serve both schools?
I'm sure Joanne will correct me if I'm wrong, but I wouldn't see one school would be appropriate for both sets of these pupils, quite frankly. You know, Woodley School specialises in autism, and I know you're going to say communication needs are dealt with by Southgate School, but we are talking about different levels and different grades, and the bigger you make a school for some of these young people with these challenges, the harder you make it for them. So I personally, and I would bow to the professionals, but I wouldn't think one school would be appropriate. I struggle with this because this isn't about a competition between Southgate School and Woodley, and you know, I don't want it to turn into that.
Thank you. I'm not suggesting it is a competition. I'm just looking at the fact that because Southgate School is already wanting more space to be able to teach its children, you know, so it just seems a better solution from my point of view, my perspective, to perhaps build two schools on that site or one school to serve both. I just wanted to follow that up with a supplementary question. Is part of the reason due to a PFI on Southgate School?
The reason at all, no.
Right, thank you.
I will address the fact that there are 164 children at Southgate School on roll, and that is their PAN. So they're not over the number of children in school at all. They may have, and I'm sure, and I've been to Southgate School, and again, you know, demonstrated because of different needs of different children, more space will be beneficial. And I don't think we're going to forget schools like Southgate. But, you know, as for two schools on the site, the problem is that it would be against the green open space around Almondbury if we had to build two on there. It would have to alter the highway entrance into the site. It would have to redirect and alter the direction of footpaths on the site. And it all becomes very complex and even more, taking up even more time. I want to see some provision as soon as we can for these children and these schools.
All right, thank you. Could I ask another question?
No, Councillor Monroe, I'll bring you back in again. There's other councillors waiting to speak. So the next one's Councillor McGuinn.
Hi. I have worked, when I was a teacher, I have worked for short periods in some of these schools, Fairfield, Lydgate before it moved to Southgate, and Norton Thorpe. So I appreciate the specialisation that is needed, the small number of kids in each class and how expensive it is to educate them. So it's difficult to argue against what you're saying, because I've been there and I know what you have to do. So I'm talking about the cost of the building. Has it been future-proofed, inflation-proofed, and I'm worried about the interest rates rising? Is 36 million the bottom line of the cost of this?
As far as I'm aware at the moment, don't forget we have 28 million in the capital budget already. It isn't the whole of that figure, has to be found elsewhere. It's in, it's part of the SEND budget. My expectation is that it will be future-proof, because we've asked people to extrapolate the numbers, or the expected numbers, and this is something that's happening up and down the country, the growing proportion of children with educational health plans, with special educational needs. And as much as anybody can estimate, that is what is being done, It's about making sure we have that capacity.
The supplementary is really about, it's to do with the fact that Southgate School has created, it has created a lot of traffic problems in the area. And I'm wondering whether within this scheme we could look at sorting out the traffic on Southfield Road.
I wouldn't see it as part of this scheme, Councillor McGuinn, but I would certainly be willing to look and have discussions, and let's look at what we can do about that. I welcome that, and I see Joanne is jotting that down, and my next portfolio briefing, that'll be something for discussion, and certainly we would want to involve ward members with any thoughts we have on that to see what your views are. Okay.
Thank you. Councillor Simpson.
Thank you very much, Chair. Mine isn't a question. You'll be pleased to hear.
I don't mind.
I just wanted to welcome the report, and particularly to thank all of the officers, Joanne, and everyone. There's a team behind it also. I just want to thank everyone for everything that's in this, because this is really, really important work and investment that not everyone sees, not everyone knows about things like this. They don't see it as necessarily touching their lives, but it's absolutely essential to what we do as a council and a society to make sure that these children have the best possible start and the best possible lives. I just wanted to make a broader comment about this issue, which is that, as I said, this is really, really important, but I don't think, we're not the only council in the country that's got a significant deficit in our dedicated school grant, and a lot of that is due to SEND pressure, as sort of Viv's reflected. This is being felt across the country, and some of that underfunding has been recognised by government. They know they need to give us more. I mean, our dedicated school grants is in the tens of millions. They recognise they need to give us more, but due to some transitionary funding arrangements, we actually got £18 million less than they recognised, which has contributed to the deficit that we've got there. And we won't be the only council that's got that. And I do just hope, and I don't mean this in a cynical or necessarily political way, but I do sincerely hope that the government, in the upcoming autumn statement and going forward, will recognise the pressure that councils are under on this and other essential issues. Obviously, as Viv has said, this is going to provide us with it's a longer term look at our SEND transformation plan, and that's hopefully going to provide us with a saving in terms of the number of children that are sent out of area. But it's not about the money, it's about providing that best start in the education that those children need and deserve, and their outcomes. And just to speak to my ward for a moment, I really do welcome and I'm really pleased about the investment in Joseph Norton. When Mel Meggs started at the council, within her first week, me and Graham Turner grabbed her and dragged her across to Sisset, and we had a wander around. And it's something that Graham has been fighting for long before I joined the council, and something that we were working on together and I've been advocating for the years that I've been on the council as well. So it's really, really exciting, and obviously there'll be discussions to be had about the site in the future, but those are for the future. For now, it's just absolutely 100% welcome, and I thank everyone for the work on it.
Councillor Simpson, and can I bring in Councillor Taylor?
Thank you, Chair. And I'd like to echo the comments that have been made, thanking the team for the work that they've done putting this together. You know, I look at the finances on behalf of my group, and as Councillor Davis will know, the SEND budget has been an issue for a long time. And I know Councillor Simpson just said this is not about the money, but it is also about the money, if we're honest about it. You know, it is a balance, and you know, I understand that there are sensitivities around locations and things, but I think what you see here is something that's bringing forward something that's going to make life better for our children that need it. It is hopefully future-proofed, so I'm supportive of all of that. My only question is what happens to the sites once they're exited? Because obviously that's going to be council land, and do we have plans or proposals? Because obviously the logical thing to do is to use those sites for some other purpose, and obviously we need to bring in finance to enable us to build this provision. So have we given consideration to what's happening about those sites as and when they're exited, would be my question.
That's a question for somebody who deals with assets, not me, Councillor Taylor.
I'm more than happy for Councillor Davis, because I usually pick on him, so.
Well, as I swallow my little bit of water just before answering the question, no, certainly that's something that we obviously, there have been discussions and there will be continuing discussions of how we best use that. But at this point, you know, I haven't got details to go through. But again, Councillor Taylor, happy to follow up and have a discussion as we see those plans come into fruition.
I think for me, it's just about when we're building business cases, it's adding that into the business case build. So I think it's important that we do that and pick that up. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Munro?
Thank you. I just wanted to ask this question, and it's really about outcomes in this case, because you know, since Almonbury Junior School was closed in 2014, it seems to be the catalyst for everything that's followed. A lot of money's been spent since then. Millions of pounds have been spent. You know, pupils have had to be forced to travel to other schools. There's a lot that's happened and taken place in our area. So I wondered if there's how are outcomes being assessed in this case? Is there a strategy for monitoring the outcomes of all of everything that's taken place, and the enormous amount of money that's been spent on the reorganisation of schools within Almonbury Ward?
Joanne, are you able to answer that?
I can answer what I think you've asked, Councillor Munro, but obviously if there's further detail, we do publish things around educational outcomes, and we have an annual report that comes, it comes to Cabinet, so that's about the educational outcomes of young people. Obviously the last couple of years have been a little bit different with the COVID pandemic. In terms of reorganisation and the cost of reorganisation, Schools Forum have a really key role in exploring and examining and holding to account around the financial implications of reorganisation. I think it's really difficult, isn't it, in terms of, I think if you could be a bit more specific, I'd be happy to follow that up with you. If it's in terms of tracking particular cohort groups, be more than happy to follow that up. But we do have our Kirklees learning partners that absolutely reorganisation doesn't just end when buildings change or youngsters are transferred. We continue to work with those families beyond reorganisation and ensuring their outcomes are well looked after. I don't know if that answers what you were asking.
Yes, thank you. If I could just come back. Yes, thank you very much, Joanne. I'll look at some of the points that you've raised actually, and get back to you. Just one other thing I just want to say in relation to the traffic issues around Southgate School. I am working with officers on a plan for that, and there is I think several people are being consulted at the moment on that. So I just thought I'd better come back on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Munro. And can I bring Councillor McGuinney?
Thank you. Oh, okay. I did make a comment to Councillor Pando at one cabinet meeting that a lot of money being spent in Almonbury schools, with the paradoxical effect of enraging a lot of the parents. Now, you did mention about the swimming pool and the sports centre. I'm going to be reassured that the community will be involved in still being able to go there and use the facilities, because that would be really, really important.
I don't think, I'd like to say the swimming pool should always be there. I think it's important for schools. I think the sports centre should be there because it's a community asset. I don't think I will be able to guarantee that while some works are happening on the site, that everything might not be able to be open all the time because of safety, etc., you know. But as much as possible, if it can be kept open for the longest period of time while work's going on, I think that's what we would seek to achieve. But, you know, it may have to close for a short period. I mean, I dread to think of somebody getting run over by a heavy truck or whatever, you know, it'd just be awful. So it would depend on the health and safety aspects, but I would like to see them open and running as much as possible on site, while ever it's safe to do so, and to be closed for a short period if there is particular sorts of work that would interfere with that. But I think the sports centres and swimming pools aren't to a penny. The big assets to put in new, to lose some, is tragic in my view, so I would like to see them continue. That's our aim.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Kendrick, for the report today. It's very comprehensive when I know how passionate you are about this. You took me on a journey through the Send as well, so over the years, so I'm fully supportive of this. As you know, in my family, we actually access this service. So thanks to the officers, and I'll move this and second Councillor Kendrick's report today. So all those in favour? Thank you, that's carried. So I'd like to thank you for your attendance today. Enjoy your evening, people.